Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good evening, and thank you for joining us for our Apply session, the second session in our College 101 series. My name is Sarah Michael Anderson, and I will be facilitating today's session. We're so excited to have you all join us tonight and learn all about the ins and outs of the college application process. Before we begin, though, I do want to go over a few items. First and foremost, we would like to thank all of our partners. This event would not be possible without their support. And if you have any questions during today's session, please note the Q&A section. And this is an opportunity for you to ask questions, and we have a number of wonderful staff who will be answering those questions throughout the session, and we'll also have a chance to discuss some of those questions towards the end of the evening. Please note that closed captioning is provided for this session, so if you will be needing that, you can click on the CC icon on the bottom right of your screen. Also, this session will be recorded, and so if you need any of these materials afterwards and want to revisit this session, that will be shared on the Florida Shines website at the end of today's presentation. Now, though, I would love to introduce tonight's speaker, and that is Dr. Melissa Niter. Melissa Lynn Niter is the new Academic Program Manager for Path to College, also known as PTC, a nonprofit 3-year academic fellowship helping students get into the best colleges with the best scholarships. She joined PTC as a college coach while completing an AmeriCorps service year with the Literacy Coalition in Palm Beach County. Dr. Niter has over 10 years of experience working in higher education and admissions, student activities, residence life, student affairs, and as a college instructor. With a major in dramatic arts and a minor in public relations from SUNY Geneseo, she pursued a master's degree in higher education administration and a minor emphasis in arts administration from Florida State University. This blending of academics and the performing arts is evidenced in her previous roles as a stage manager with the Walt Disney World Entertainment Company and in her dissertation studying the strategies used by college career advisors when working with visual and performing arts majors. Dr. Niter is a 2021 graduate of the Organizational Leadership Program at Pepperdine University within the Graduate School of Education and Psychology, receiving her doctorate in education. Since 2016, she has volunteered as a virtual mentor for UStrive, mentoring high school students on the college admissions application process. And we are so excited to welcome her to our College 101 series tonight. So Dr. Niter, I would love to turn it over to you now.
Certainly. Thank you so much, Sarah. Well, welcome. Thank you so much. As Sarah said, my name is Dr. Melissa Niter. And tonight we're going to be talking about College 101 Apply, putting the pieces of the puzzle together. So who is Path to College? As Sarah mentioned, we are a 3-year academic fellowship, and we fearlessly clear the path for overlooked students to get into the best universities. Our mission is to expand minds and ignite potential. So what goes into a good college application? Time, organization, and plenty of essay revisions. So when we're looking at different decision factors that colleges and universities make in terms of their admissions team, this over to the side is actually a chart from the National Association for College Admission Counseling. And the chart shows the percentage of colleges giving considerable importance to factors in admission decisions. And this was from the fall of 2012 to 2023. Over here, what's really important for this coming year are grades in college preparation courses. So dual enrollment, advanced AP classes, ACE, but also total high school grades in all courses. The strength of the curriculum, so really looking at those courses that you're taking, an essay or writing sample, your interest in attending that institution, Counselor recommendations. So yes, your high school guidance counselors do go ahead and they do write out a recommendation letter or fill out a form as you're applying to different colleges and universities. So really taking those, making those relationships and going ahead and being able to have that counselor get to know you is very important during your high school years. Also, teacher recommendations. They look at those as well. Extracurricular activities. With the extracurricular activities, they really want to get to know you. What are your interests? What are you passionate about? So really taking a look at that and getting to know you a little bit more through that process. We also look at admission test scores such as the SAT and ACT. If you're going ahead and going to do a performing arts track or a music track, you may have to go ahead and submit a portfolio. And they also look at high school class rank as well too. So the path to college timeline, where should I be right now? So during this presentation, I'm sure that I have some freshman students, some ninth graders in the audience, 10th graders, juniors, and seniors. So for ninth grade, for the fall semester, really, I know that it's just your first month or 2 months into high school, but I would highly encourage you to go ahead and to make an appointment to speak with your guidance counselor. If you would like to go ahead and have an interest in going to college, please let them know. With that, they can go ahead and they can help with the planning of your courses throughout the years. In order to go ahead and to be able to get into a Florida college or university, you have to have at least 2 years of foreign language. And so that is something then that your guidance counselor would need to go ahead and to advise you for those years. Also go ahead and join school clubs, a sports team. Also do some volunteer work. Yes, we know that you need to have 20 hours of volunteer hours to go ahead and to graduate, but to be eligible for those scholarships such as Bright Futures, you would need to have at least 100 or 75 hours in order to be eligible for those. Really taking the time your freshman year into your 10th grade year to go ahead and make sure that you're getting organized, that you're learning and practicing effective study habits. During your spring semester of your 9th grade year, you may want to go ahead and take the PERT test if you plan to dual enroll. The reason why dual enrollment is important is that it shows that you can do college level coursework. And you want to go ahead and have some of that academic rigor that we spoke about before. Also, too, those college credits will go ahead and they will be able to be counted when you go to your college or university, and you'll be able to then have those credits accepted for your major or for the Common Core classes that you need. It does vary by institution to institution, but that will go ahead and give you a leg up on everybody else. When we look at your 10th grade fall semester, you really want to build that transcript out. So taking those honored courses, the dual enrollment that we mentioned before, advanced placement courses. You can also take different certification classes, and now is a time to run for a leadership position in a club or to start a club even. Within our fellowship, we had a student that was interested in volleyball, and they didn't have a volleyball club or sport at her school, so she started that volleyball club. Also to keep up with volunteering within your community. And 10th grade in the spring semester, you want to continue to build that transcript. You're going to be taking the PSAT, and you want to go ahead and make sure that you are planning that time to go ahead and to study for your ACE or AP placement exams. You can also consider career aspirations and apply for summer internships or job opportunities for students. Now is the time to really do more of that exploratory piece in terms of what you might want to do after you graduate college. And so that really will get you on the path of looking at those different college majors when you go ahead and look at those different summer internships, because you're getting that exposure to different places that you might want to work. You can also make your resume as well. With 11th grade fall semester, you're really preparing for college readiness. So you're keeping Those honors classes, you're keeping up with your coursework, making sure that you're competitive, you're studying for the SAT, and then you're doing some college exploration. You're really looking to see what colleges you might want to go to. What we say with Path to College is that we expect our students to have colleges that fit into 3 different categories. A dream, where they would love to go, no matter what the price, if price was not something that they needed to care about. Also, something that is right on track or a match for them, meaning that their SAT scores, their high school GPA is right on track to get into that college or university. And then we also have something that's called a safety, schools that they know based upon their high school transcript, their SAT or ACT scores that they can get into. Looking at that spring semester, taking that SAT, staying on top of coursework, and then really looking at those college essay prompts and begin drafting your essay. And of course, touring college campuses. When we look at then the junior to senior year, really having that goal SAT score and making sure that you're prepared for that. Also too, by the end of your junior year, you're going to ask for letters of recommendation. So this is the time where over the summer, your high school teachers, your high school coaches, or if you have a drama instructor, they will be able to go ahead and take that time over the summer to work on those college recommendation letters for you. And you really want to ask for a strong letter of recommendation. And then now's the time to go ahead and to start to begin that writing process and brainstorming process for college essays as well too. With the senior year, you're going to be taking a look at how you can apply to college. So either looking at the common application or college applications to do that. You're also going to gather your transcripts, resume, any type of financial information that you would need to send, and also to put together those finishing touches on portfolios or other projects that you need if that's part of the application process for you. Also too, right now in December of 2023, the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, that will be due. So that's a time to go ahead and to meet with your parents or guardians to talk about that financial aid type information that they would need in order to fill out that section. Within your senior year, you really want to continue to have that strong academic focus so that you can end on a high note. We call this sort of like the senioritis detection, where if you do have an offer to go ahead and to go to a college or university, but if your grades dip or you're not on track anymore, they can rescind that offer. And then also in senior year in the spring semester, there may be some in-person interviews. So really look out for those interview requests from different colleges. You can also go ahead and practice for those as well too. So all of this to say is that you really want to go ahead and put your best foot forward. What also goes into the college application process is organization. So let's take a look at the application components. So there's different ways that you can apply to college. One is the common application. That's available. They have over 1,000 different types of colleges and universities that are part of that common application. There's also something called the Common Black College Application for those historically Black colleges and universities. We have the Coalition app and also a college-specific application. So for example, Berklee School of Music would be one of the colleges that may have a separate application and may not be part of that common app, for example. Your SAT, ACT, and the CLT, they are not optional in the state of Florida, so you will need to go ahead and if you're going to apply to a public college or university, you will need to go ahead and to submit those scores. Your high school transcripts, those letters of recommendation, essays and personal statements, portfolios, photos, and any extra type of information that they would like. And we talked a little bit before about that mid-year, end-of-year reports, that senioritis detector. And then also, of course, the in-person or virtual interviews. So when we talk about this collecting and preparing of application materials, the goal here is really to help college admission officers get to know you. They want to know if you're going to be a good fit for their institution, if you're going to be successful at that school, and they really want to know about your personality, your interests, and why they should go ahead and accept you. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So with the letters of recommendation, you can go ahead and ask people specifically teachers. Now, depending on your college major, for example, if you were going into the sciences, they would recommend that you have someone from one of your core classes. So whether that be a science teacher or a math teacher, let's say, that way they can go ahead and talk about your academics, how you performed in class. This is a time, especially for those 9th and 10th graders out here, you could always go ahead and really start building those relationships with your teachers now. If you're a junior and senior and you really don't have those type of relationships already built, now's the time to go ahead and to work on those. So when you're looking at who to ask, also make sure that you did very well in their class. And that goes not just for academics, but also your behavior in class as well too. And you want to ask them if they could offer you a strong letter of recommendation. So you really want to ask for honest feedback, highlighting your strengths. Also, too, you can always send a polite reminder if you don't hear any updates from your letter writer. So I usually say at least 2 weeks before your application is due. If you haven't heard from your person that's writing the letter of recommendation, to send them a nice reminder so that you can make that deadline on time. In terms of SAT and ACT exams and preparation, as you know, they are required for Florida public universities, and we do have some resources available for you. So one thing you can do is to get to know the tests. The SAT is comprehensive. You have to have more time, but the passages and questions require more comprehension. A really great study resource is Khan Academy. That is free. If you go ahead and you link your College Board SAT account to Khan Academy, you can go through and work on those items that maybe when you did your PSAT, or if you plug in your scores for the SAT, if those scores are not what you wanted them to be, they'll take a look at that section and they can go ahead and get you more and more practice tests and practice questions so you could build more of that knowledge base for that exam. Also, the ACT is a bit of a speed test. If you're good at science or scientific analysis, you could always consider taking this test because it has a separate section for it. And a really good study resource here that's also free is called Magoosh. That's available online, and there's several different practice tests available for the ACT as well as the SAT on Magoosh. And then with Path to College, we also offer free virtual SAT prep, and that is at www.pathtocollege.org workshops. So with the digital SAT, that's going to occur in the spring of 2024. One of the great things about College Board is that they do have a blue book available. This is something that you can download onto your laptop or your tablet, and you can actually get up to 4 free digital SAT practice booklets with that. So you're able to go ahead and to practice with that test. If you are new to the PSAT, I've heard that the digital portion of that is going to start this fall. How to apply application portals. So I mentioned before about there's several different types of ways to apply to a college or university. There's the common application that has over 1,000 different colleges. With that, you are able to go ahead and to get a free waiver based upon family income if you qualify for that. So you don't have to go ahead and have anywhere from $50 to $100 in terms of those application fees. You can ask for a waiver for those. With the Common Black College application, that is only $20, and that gives you access to 62 historically Black colleges and universities. So if you're looking at going ahead and applying to some of the colleges such as Howard University or Spelman, if you go ahead and do that on the Common Black application, college application, then you're able to go ahead and just pay a flat fee of $20 for that. And then there's also the school-specific application portals. One thing to keep in mind with the Common application is that it does offer resources available. So for example, if you have low vision or are visually impaired, you're able to go ahead and to reach out to them, and they do provide accessible resources for doing that application. In terms of virtual resources, let's say that you're not able to go ahead and to take a college tour. You can also start right at your high school. So they offer different college nights, for example, where college admission officers will come to your high school. There's also virtual tours as well, so you can take a look at that college or university. That's also ideal for out of state if you're not able to go ahead and to physically go there. They also do have, at different colleges and universities, they have what's called a fly-in program. And with that fly-in program, you're able to actually go ahead and apply and see if you can be sponsored to have your travel paid for to go to that college or university. And that would be simply checking out the college or university website that you want to go to see if they would go ahead and participate in that program. We also have the admissions scholarship information sessions. Those are recurring and accessible. Those are done by the college admissions office, available right on their website, on the college website, to sign up and have those question and answer sessions as well with that. And then we do have, obviously, the admissions counselor. So you could go to your high school guidance counselor and find out who the representative is from a specific university or college, and they could let you know and find out like when they will be on campus or in the area to go ahead and to meet up with them. So this is a practice account with the Common application. One of the great things about the Common application is that you can do a practice account and you can have a lot of that information saved. So when it comes time to apply to colleges and universities, you'll have a lot of that demographic and other information already put in. What I'd like to do now is to go ahead and to show you some different types of resources available. So this one, we talked before about doing different extracurricular activities. This is approaching the activities section. So one of the reasons why extracurricular activities are so important is that it really gives that college or university a chance to go ahead and to get to know you and your interests. So this here has a list of the different recommendations for doing that with the different activities and descriptions. One thing is to take a look at is that they only have a certain amount of character limits or a certain amount of words that you can put in, and it actually goes ahead and gives you great examples of how to write those out and then how to edit that down so you can make those characters or the word limit when you're applying through Common App. Another aspect of Common App is also the questions. There's going to be 7 different type of essay questions. So when you're applying, let's say, to multiple colleges or universities and you decide to use the Common application, you only have to write 1 Common application essay. And you can choose from those. This one here, the first one says, some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, please share your story. And there's a couple prompts here. For example, when you're brainstorming that, to think about, your community, environment, family, and culture. Anything that you're deeply curious about, or how you spend your time, what makes you proud, people and experiences that shaped your life. And then this is some other kind of prompts to look at. For example, like you can ask yourself, what's missing from the rest of my application? Or is there context to help colleges understand who I am? So when you're looking at that last piece, is there context to help colleges understand who I am? You want to think about your college application as being representative of your authentic self. So the different activities that you do help support what you're writing in your essay prompts. You don't necessarily need to repeat the same thing, but this gives then the college or university admissions team a little snapshot of who you are as a person, what makes you tick, what goes ahead and motivates your intellectual curiosity. So we took a look at that. And now we're going to take a look back. So this is the common application, which we just talked about, how to tell your story, suggested approaches, and then approaching the activities section, common application. So now that we're getting into the best personal statement and producing tips that you could go ahead and produce that best personal statement, you want to answer the question. So you want to make sure that you're breaking the question down and hitting all of those key points that they are asking for during your information. So when we take a look at that, once you start brainstorming, go ahead and think about a broad topic, something that immediately comes to mind when you think of the influential parts of your life. So let's say, for example, family. And then specify a circumstance about that topic. So the situation that makes this broad topic stand out to you as influential. For example, maybe living in a single parent household. And then you want to hone in on your unique point. So the part of that circumstance that makes your story uniquely your own. So for example, you might have gained better independence since your mother was working long hours, and you had to lean in and help out by watching your brothers and sisters, cooking, helping them with their homework, so taking on more of that role of responsibility. So that would be something then that you could go ahead and start with a creative leading statement or story to make that engaging. Show, don't tell. So you really want to go ahead and show and share the details. Just not talk about it, but really kind of create an environment where that person that's reading that essay feels like they are having lived through that experience with you. You want to make it engaging. You want to go ahead and to have that creative leading story or hook for those first couple sentences. When you're looking at editing, you're going to want to write concisely. So you want to cut out redundant sentences, long paragraphs, and side stories. Now, with this one, use the essays to explain away any doubts or shortcomings you think the college should know. With the common application, there is a section that lets you do an essay or discuss extenuating circumstances or anything else that you want that college or university admissions team to know about you. So let's say during your freshman year, you didn't do so well. You might have had a couple different C's in your classes. You weren't really sure what you were doing. You're still getting acclimated to going from middle school to high school. You could talk about that during that extra portion of the Common App if you wanted to go ahead and just to do a different personal statement and not talk about those doubts or shortcomings in that section there. With avoid relying on the thesaurus, you really want to go ahead and make sure that with the language that you're using is plain and simple to get your point across. If you're saying the same thing over and over again, there are different ways to go ahead and to take a look at your essay to make it not so redundant and that you're hitting the same point home, which is one of the reasons why we say read it out loud, because you will catch some of those. And then you also want to conclude effectively. So can you tie in your end goal? So really you're looking at this as a whole package, and that is your activities section. That is if you have any paid work experience, if you are going ahead and maybe you weren't able to do a lot of extracurricular activities, different clubs, leadership positions after school because you had family responsibilities. These all go into then creating that overall package that is you that you're going to present to that admissions team. So what is your end goal? What do you want to major in? What do you want to do with this college degree? Why do you want to go there specifically? Let's say that you're looking to go to, for example, like the state of Washington, and there's a number of different colleges in and around Seattle, and you really enjoy the snow, but you need to specifically say why that particular college in Seattle versus the other 10 or 15 or so different colleges that are there, so that you're really taking a look at why specifically that school and just not a different change in the weather. So we mentioned before about practice, show, don't tell. So this is one of the journaling activities that we have our Path to College Fellowship students work on. So what we're doing is you want to use imagery. And how do you do that? You use sensory language. So visual. So taking a look, was the cafeteria that day, was it crowded? Was it serene? Was it deserted? Hazy, colorful? Auditory, so what can you hear? Like, can you hear the pounding of your heart, or can you hear the pounding of other people as they went ahead and pounded their forks and spoons on the table, for example? Was it bubbling? Was it humming? Was it rambling? Tactile, so how did that feel? Was it rough, slippery, coarse, smooth, or mushy? Olfactory, how did it smell? Was it rotten, pungent, fresh, smoky, or earthy? Gustatory, did it taste bitter? Was it bland, sweet, savory, or tangy? Kinesthetic, was someone flapping around? Were they rushing? Were the lights twinkling? Was something flinching? So these are all different things that when you're looking at creating that really rich, exciting college essay that you could pull from. So that really brings the story to life, and we'll take a look at that later. Brainstorm the personal essay. So what details of your life have shaped it the most? Was it people, places, events, or circumstances? What obstacles have you had to overcome? What education, professional, or cultural opportunities have you experienced? What have been your life's turning points? What are your perspectives or philosophies? And what are your major goals? So really looking at this, sort of looking at that big picture where you have a main point or idea that you want to get across, and then you have different types of supporting evidence, you would go ahead and work on those with that. Another thing that to keep in mind when you're writing your college essay, and talking with other college admission counselors, really heard a lot, and especially since the pandemic, that there's sort of a feeling out there that you have to write about a traumatic event for the challenge essay portion. And these college counselors have sort of seen this over and over again, and it's not a requirement to do that. If you do go ahead and write about trauma, or make your essay completely about some of the different kind of darkest times that you've faced, you want to demonstrate a growth mindset. You want to avoid negative or critical language. Choose your content wisely. Move in a positive direction, and show some personal growth with that. We're going to go ahead now and take a look at two examples. This one is an essay that needs revision. So this question here was, evaluate a significant experience, achievement, risk you have taken, or ethical dilemma you have faced and its impact on you. The most significant experience I've had is one summer when I got lost in the wilderness with my dad. One significant experience I had was when I camped out in the wilderness with my dad for 2 weeks last summer. That was a buggy experience, but more than the leftover scars from branch wounds and brambles are left with me. I think I grew up on that trip. So we can see right off the bat that there's repetition. So as you're reading it out loud, you would go ahead and you would catch that, and then you can edit that part out. This looks like this may have been possibly first draft work. So hopefully this wasn't something that a student turned in for their personal essay. And one thing that you want to do is go ahead and make sure that the grammar is correct. So for example, as we go down here, we know that campground was supposed to be put together. He really goes on, this person that wrote this, for a while before he gets to his main topic, which was that he wanted to go on this trip with his dad because his dad and mom were divorced. So that doesn't even show anywhere on the first page. It doesn't go on until the second page. So really having that introductory type first paragraph, and then by the second or third paragraph, you really should start making your point pretty soon with that. Now, when we look at an example of the perfect college essay, this one was an Ivy League college entrance essay example, and this prompt that they answered was from the Common Application. And it was, some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. Managing to break free from my mother's grasp, I charged with arms flailing and chubby legs fluttering beneath me. I was the ferocious 2-year-old rampaging through Costco on a Saturday morning. My mother's eyes widened in horror as I jettisoned my churro. The cinnamon sugar rocket gracefully sliced its way through the air while I continued my spree. I sprinted through the aisles, looking up in awe at the massive bulk products that towered over me. Overcome with wonder, I wanted to touch and taste, to stick my head into industrialized freezers, to explore every crevice. I was a conquistador, but rather than searching the land for El Dorado, I scoured aisles for free samples. Before inevitably being whisked away into a shopping cart, I scaled a mountain of plush toys and surveyed the expanse that lay before me, the kingdom of Costco. Now, right off the bat, that is using that show, don't tell type language. It's engaging, wanting to know what happens next. So as we go through, in the end of the second paragraph, the writer here goes ahead and asks different questions. So perusing the aisles gave me time to ponder. Who needs 3 pounds of sour cream? Was cultured yogurt any more well-mannered than its uncultured counterpart? Costco gave birth to my unfettered curiosity. And then as the essay goes on, they explain about that. They explain about the different curiosity that comes from going ahead and wanting to know about history or wanting to know how things work, and really ties that back into then a potential major and interest in the sciences. So this is a really great example of being able to use that show, don't tell theory with that. And just one moment while I go ahead and get back into the presentation. So in terms of putting all the pieces together, we talked today about what to use. The Common Application, Common Black College Application, Coalition Application, or college-specific application. We also talked about SAT, ACT, or the Classic Learning Test scores. They're not optional for Florida, for Florida public universities. So if you are looking at, for example, different colleges and universities that offer scholarships, there are schools that are what we call test optional, where they do not require standardized test scores to go ahead and to review your application. But if you're looking for going ahead and being competitive for different scholarships, that is where that time with the SAT, ACT would be needed. Also making sure that you have your high school transcripts, that's all gathered. If you are doing dual enrollment, you'll need to ask for those from a college or university. We also have letters of recommendation, so be sure to ask early. We talked about doing that by the end of your spring semester of your junior year. Essays and personal statements, working on them towards the spring semester of your junior year into the summer, so that with the goal of that being ready well in advance of your applying to colleges and universities. We talked about portfolios, photos, extra types of material that they will require different college and universities briefly. Also that mid-year, end-of-year reports, that senioritis detector, making sure that you're staying strong throughout your academics. And then also in-person or virtual interviews. Those do vary based upon whether or not you're going for a scholarship application, or depending on the program, they may go ahead and require those interviews to be done. Well, thank you so much for joining me today with College 101. I'm here to answer any kinds of questions that you may have. If you'd like to reach out to me, my email is melissa@pathtocollege.org. And then we have my telephone number, 561-221-2377.
Woohoo! Yay, Dr. Niter. Thank you so much. Just wonderful and so much amazing information. And we had the questions were just rolling in the Q&A. So Dr. Niter, if you don't mind, you can, I think, stop sharing, and then we'll go ahead and dive into some of those questions, if that's okay.
Certainly. Just one moment. Let me go ahead and get...
Yeah, wonderful. I know y'all in the chat and the Q&A had lots of questions about testing and applications and things like that. So we want to be able to answer those for you. There we go. Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So first and foremost, I also saw a lot of students asking about copies of the slides. Fortunately, all of these presentations have been recorded, and they will be available on floridashines.org. So you should be able to see that link in the Q&A and track these once they get uploaded after we have finished presenting. But to some of the questions about the material that we're talking about with Apply, so testing questions. We had some students mention that the deadline for their application is a little bit earlier in the school year. And they're curious, if I want to take the SAT again or the ACT again, would I get the chance to update my score on my admissions file? And are the institutions that I'm applying to going to take that into evaluation when looking at my application?
Certainly, and they do. So, for example, with University of Florida, if that's a school that you're interested in, they do go ahead and accept scores up until December 2nd. So that very last SAT score, for example, would be in November. They usually would have that about 10 days out after the reporting's done. So it's cutting it close for that. But if you go on to actually the college website and check with admissions, it will say, and type in the last deadline for SAT or ACT, they'll have that list there. So it does vary by institution.
Yeah, so that's great to know. So always check with the institution that you're applying to, because they may be able to accept that new score. We also had questions about multiple attempts, because I think that touches on that. How do these institutions look at, I've taken the SAT 2-3 times, should I try to take it more? Or should I try to take it more if I'm not improving in my attempts? What would your recommendation be for that?
Well, some colleges and universities, just like Bright Futures, may super score. So they're going to be taking like the best math portion and then the best verbal portion of that. If you're going for Bright Futures, you're actually able to take those SAT or ACT scores up until June of the year that you graduate. So with that.
Wonderful. And then we also had a question about, how early should we be asking for letters of recommendation for our application? Should I be doing this my as early as my freshman year? Is senior year too late? What would you recommend?
I would recommend, for one, building those relationships with your teachers and your high school guidance counselor as soon as possible. going ahead and ideally by the end of your spring semester of your junior year. This way they do have the summer to go ahead and to do that. And when you're asking for these letters of recommendation, I didn't mention this before, but it's something that you might want to go ahead and what we call have a brag sheet. Which you're going ahead and you have either almost like a resume. So you have a copy of your high school transcript with them. You have a resume. You have a listing of different organizations or community service projects that you've done. If you do have a rough draft of a letter, you might want to share it with them. But also specifically answer the question, why this institution or why these institutions? And so the Common Application, for example, they have a really great series of recommendations, how-tos on that. So you can go ahead and you can look at those, download them, fill them out, and give those to your high school teacher, for example.
That's wonderful. And while we're on the topic of essays, what if the school that I'm interested in says that it's optional? Should I still do it?
Well, with optional, you always want to be the person that's doing more, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really not optional. So if it does say optional, no, just go ahead and spend the time and do it. For example, when I was looking at the different doctoral programs, I started about 6 months to 3 months early within that time range, like looking at my essays. I gave my letters of recommendation, my former supervisors and things like that, at least a month or more in advance for that. So and I gave them a packet of material specifically. So.
Yeah, always good to go above and beyond what you're being asked to do. I completely agree. We also, sometimes the academic journey is different for everyone when we're in high school, and sometimes it takes a little longer for things to click for some students, where maybe I had a really rough freshman year, a rough sophomore year, but I got things together for my junior and senior year. What would you recommend to one of those students in maybe when they should apply? Should they be waiting until they get their first semester grades their senior year to start an application? Or should they be, applying to wherever they can and going ahead and sending those transcripts when they are available?
Yes. So I would go ahead and recommend starting as early as possible. When you look at the different colleges and universities that you're interested in, so let's say for right now you're a senior and you haven't done a lot of that sort of junior or sophomore year research in terms of where you want to go, take a look at the admission requirements and get that done early. Typically, in the state of Florida, it varies. They have something that's called like early admission or early admit that you can do, which has like strict deadlines anywhere from October 15th to November 1st, maybe November 15th with those. Other ones might have the general application period start around like mid-November and go through like rolling applications that would then go throughout the senior year. But with waiting on like the transcript to get better, there's always that section that you can, on the Common Application, for example, and other applications that you can talk about some of those experiences and that transition for you, and then prove then throughout the years where you've really mastered, you have your study skills down pat, you made different changes and things like that, and they'll see that in your courses. And with the colleges and universities, they'll have several different times that you're required to send in that information as well.
Oh, that's a good point. A student had asked that, when do I send my transcripts? What are those deadlines and dates that I need to be aware of? Should I be doing it at the beginning of my senior year? Do I do it at my application at the very end?
Yeah. So some of the colleges and universities will have you input them. Others will go ahead and ask your school to go ahead and to send them on. So it'll be several different times. So it may be like in the beginning, like when you apply, so that they're looking at those grades up until the date that you apply. And then after you apply, they'll ask for those grades again. And so it does vary by college and university. So that would all be on that admissions website.
Oh, I love this question. Someone asked, can I use the same essay when applying to multiple colleges if the prompts are the same?
With that, with the Common App, you only would have one prompt.
Mhm.
If there are, for example, there are several different universities that have very specific types of prompts. So you might have, let's say, if you're doing the Common application, you have your one set prompt that will go out to multiple colleges and universities. Then you might have some specific, like for example, if there's an honors college, they would have some different prompts with that, or specific majors. And so you can always go ahead and have like your main essay, but then you want to change that and be very mindful of the fact that it's not exactly the same. So let's say if you're applying to a school that has an honors college and you have different prompts for that, you don't want to repeat the same thing. You want it to be different and focus specifically on what that prompt is.
Right, that it's always good to make it unique for where you're applying to because it shows those people reviewing your application that you are really caring about this specific institution and this specific program potentially. I think
Yes.
that's great to note. While we're on the Common App, when you're filling out the Common App application, can you fill it out before you submit and save your work as you're working through it, or do you have to do it all at once?
You can have a what we call a practice account,
Ooh.
and everything will in your practice account stays except for two things. One is the essay prompts. So I was working with a student in our fellowship, and she had filled out like the different essay prompts and things like that. And I said, please make sure, because August 1st, August 2nd is like that turnaround date. I said, so please make sure that you're saving that into like a Word document, or, you know, if you're using Google, a Google Sheet document, so that you can save that information, because it will go away and you have to put that information in again. So on the Common application, it will say specifically what items get changed over.
And another great Common App question, do colleges, or and this could be even beyond the Common App, do colleges start reviewing applications when they're submitted before the deadlines? So if I'm an early bird and I submitted my application, a month before the deadline, is there a chance that that could be reviewed before that deadline even comes?
It really depends on, I think, the college or university. Once again, they might have that, for example, on their website when they begin to do that. If not, that's a great way to go ahead and to reach out to a college admissions officer at the school that you like to go to.
And then last question, we're getting some questions about majors. A lot of students their senior year know what they want to study, some of them don't, but is it recommended that I say somewhere on my application, if they don't ask what I'm wanting to study, what major I'm in, do I need to have that figured out when I'm applying?
Okay. With that, it really depends on if you're more like of an exploratory student, still not
Mhm.
sure. That's fine. You'll have plenty of chance to go ahead and to sort of explore. I think it's the end of your sophomore year that you have to declare a major. And that might be something, you know, that you could talk about in your essay. And they're once again looking at why that institution. So if you know that you're unsure between a couple different majors, but that they have those different majors at that school, or a chance to have a major or a minor in that other secondary subject, that might be something to talk about. With that, there are also what's called limited access programs. So for example, for our students out there that are part of like the nursing programs or medical programs, academies, like for the Florida Choice programs, the nursing programs are very competitive, and it does vary school by school. So as you're looking at those applications, really take a look at what like the course requirements are and things like that, so that you're meeting those.
Yes, that's good to know. Always good to ask your specific institution when in doubt. If there are any questions that you have, ask the institutions that you're applying to, and they'll be able to give the specific answer as it relates to that college or university. Well, Dr. Niter, thank you so much. Just a wealth of knowledge, and we so appreciate you being with us this evening. And everyone else, before we let you go, we do want to remind you there is still one more series, one more session in our College 101 series. So please don't forget to register for our fun session, which is next Thursday at 6 p.m. You can sign up using the QR code shown here on the screen, and you're going to learn about all the different ways that you can pay for college through scholarships, grants, work studies, that your options truly are endless to be able to, now that you have explored, now that you have applied, let's learn how we can pay for college. So thank you all for being with us this evening, and we look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.